This video is brought to you by Robinhood, the investment brokers that let you buy stocks, ETFs, and cryptocurrencies all commission free. There's still time to take advantage of this historic 2020 stock market crash, and if you sign up using the link in the description below, you'll instantly receive one free stock without even depositing a single penny. No, this still isn't my real portfolio, but I have added to it a bit, like the stock on your screen. That's Cody. They make like makeup, Revlon, stuff like that. What's up, YouTube? Capital G here, giving you guys an OCG meta game breakdown. In fact, an immediate update. And I just talked about this last week on the channel. Usually I would not post another OCG meta video this quickly. However, we have some new information and something incredibly crazy and probably disturbing is shaping up in the OCG, probably soon to be the TCG. So what exactly is going on? For those of you who saw my last video, which I forget exactly what day I posted it, maybe Wednesday, Thursday, something like that. That video talked about the rise of the duelist meta in the OCG, and I specifically said, hey, this is still a meta in the OCG where nothing new has been released. That was still based on the early stages of May, and there was, you know, pretty much just Rise of the Duelist as what the people were playing. That was Orcus and the Invoke Dragma. Those were like the top decks, but we were finally starting to see the Flame Noble Knights, a deck that I think is incredibly powerful. We were seeing them pop up into the meta. However, we now have some tournament results, guys, and keep in mind the deck list that you guys are looking at and the other three decks that I'm going to show, because I've got the entire top four from this event. These are all deck lists post the brand new Battles of Legends that has been released. Well, it's already been released in the OCG. It's not going to be released in the TCG until July, but we know what comes out in that Battles of Legends. We get these ridiculously powerful Don Thousand Numeron cards, and you guys know I have talked about this in like 3 different videos. I believe the second I saw these cards, I was like, Konami should have never made them. They're all broken. They're ridiculous. It doesn't matter if you're going first, if you're going second, you can auto win the game from either position. Basically, one card is essentially the win condition for these cards, and I've been saying that I believe that they were going to take over the meta, and from the very small sample size that we've gotten so far, guys, it looks like we might actually be entering kind of like the next tier 0. Now, I said that these cards were pretty much going to find their way into everything, and that has already started to take place. So what you guys are looking at is, and I believe this was called the Origami CS tournament. I believe it happened in Japan. It was an online tournament from what I could tell, or from what I've heard, and it was 32 people. Obviously, again, it's a very small sample size, but this is from the very first weekend that these came out. Now, the interesting thing is we actually saw one specific deck playing this, and I feel like probably half the decks in this tournament were running the Numeron engine. Actually, it was probably higher than that. But this build in particular, and keep in mind this was the build that got first place, it's not just running the Numeron engines. Obviously, get 1 card S0s and 1 card OTKs if you're going second. You can see with the first couple of cards, it's also running the Red Eyes Dart Dragoon engine. Now, the reason that this is kind of strange to have both of these in one deck is the fact that there's no real way that I can think of you dropping Red Eyes Dart Dragoon and also S0 in the same turn. I mean, there may be some crazy way to do it, but I really can't think of a, you know, simple or practical way of doing it, because you guys know that cards like Predaplant Verde Anaconda, Red Eyes Fusion, and then also Numeron Network, they basically have summon restrictions built into every single one of them. Some of them you resolve the card and you don't get to summon anymore, or with like Numeron Network, when you resolve it, you only get 1 more additional summon, and usually that summon is going to be S0. So it's very unlikely that you're going to be able to drop both of those boss monsters in a turn. But I guess if you really think about it, you're only sacrificing maybe a couple of cards that can be bricks, and I guess the theory is to basically always drop one of those cards in your first turn. And if you're thinking about that, you know that S0 can literally just win the duel, or you can just open with like a Red Eyes Dart Dragoon, and that card's usually strong enough outside of getting Kaiju'd or Dark Ruler No More to beat a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh decks. Like some decks just can't even out the card. So I'm looking at this, and this is something that I thought could potentially transition into or translate into not just this deck, not just El Dorado, but into other decks. I think I said previously when I was talking about the Numeron cards, I was like, yeah, you're probably going to see this in Guru, you're going to see this in Trickstar, you're going to see this in basically every control deck in the game is going to be playing this engine. But yeah, they might even, depending on how the FNL list goes, we might even see the Red Eyes Dart Dragoon and the Numeron engine in one deck, which, I mean, that's just absolutely insane. Now, one other thing that I did notice, and I'll show you guys some of the other builds that make top 4 or that made top 4, and you'll notice a certain card is pretty much prevalent in all of these Numeron El Dorado decks. Well, outside of obviously the El Dorado cards themselves, you're starting to see Forbidden Droplet, or just one Forbidden Drop, I believe is what it's going to be called in the TCG. This card is everywhere. I think that this is probably going to end up being a staple in the El Dorado deck. And, you know, I did say in my review of just one Forbidden Drop that it's a very expensive card because it does require discards. However, it can negate multiple monsters, and it does have the ability to potentially be a spell speed 4, which is just absolutely crazy because you'll also notice that a lot of these decks, they play like Solemn Judgment. They have, what is it? The Golden Land, discard, excuse me, Golden Land Forever, which is a counter trap. You know, Forbidden Droplets, or just one Forbidden Drop, this is a card that your opponent can't even use counter traps on. And that's incredible because it can stop S0. It can stop any type of, like, let's say you're playing against Adamanticators or, you know, like Pendulums. Even the builds that have like counter traps, there's nothing your opponent can throw at you. If you discard one of your El Dorado traps to the graveyard, your opponent basically can't do anything to stop this. And that's one of the reasons why I think that this card is becoming popular in the OCG. Now, look, I didn't expect it to be this popular where like these decks are main decking 3 of it, but it's definitely something to look out for. I do kind of wonder if, you know, just one Forbidden Drop will be able to translate into other decks, or if people are just playing it in El Dorado specifically because they've got so much fodder. Like, you can just throw away these El Dorado cards like willy-nilly, and basically they're just going to make advantage from the graveyard. So it's not really that big of a deal. But to me, this is kind of scary. I mean, I know in the OCG there were a lot of decks like Adamanticators and some of the other combo decks that were underperforming. Like, you don't really see Madoche in the OCG. A lot of that, I believe, has to do with, you know, cards like Maxi being available in the OCG, and also the fact that they got triple skill drain. Like, if you're an Adamanticator player or a Madoche player, like, what do you do when somebody flips over skill drain? Like, you just cry. You can't beat this card, and you basically just automatically lose the game. I mean, honestly, the OCG has like significantly more floodgates than we have in the TCG. How they have more hand traps too. I think that's the reason that combo is not doing very well in the OCG. In fact, it's kind of crazy to think that they have Maxi and it's such a powerful card, and you would think that, oh my goodness, Maxi, every deck in the game must play 3 of it. But if you look at some of these tournament results, like, no, Maxi is actually starting to tail off. I've noticed that in the OCG, and now if El Dorado is going to be like easily the most dominant deck, you're probably not going to be wanting to main deck 3 copies of Maxi because El Dorado doesn't really special summon that much. Even if they are dropping Red Eyes Dart Dragoon, or if they do happen to go for the Numeron play, you're only drawing 1 to 2 cards at best against that. And if they obviously are able to successfully drop something like S0, you're probably going to lose anyways, unless you do happen to draw just one Forbidden Drop. Now, there was one combo deck in particular that is doing well, and this is just, it's always so bizarre that Pendulums do so well in the OCG. I always talk about it in my reports. Like, the OCG just, I don't know, it's just like the whole OCG is Triff or something like that. But Zephyra seems to continue to do incredibly well. Keep in mind, the OCG ban list is so different when it comes to Pendulums. They still have things like Astrograph Sorcerer. They have Heavy Metaphors, Electromite. They have cards like Servant of Endymion at 3. So trying to play, you know, the OCG builds and the TCG for like this deck in particular, basically any of the Pendulum decks, it's honestly not really going to work because their ban list is just like so significantly different. Also, for some I can't get these two cards to load. It's Yazzie and Denlong. I don't know if that's EDO Pro trying to tell us that Denlong shouldn't come back, but for the life of me, I just can't get these two cards to load. They also have Destrudo in the OCG. You know, they got Denlong, so basically it's like night and day. But I do think that it's very interesting that the Numeron cards so far, and again, we have a very small sample size, but so far they've come out the gate, and I mean, they're looking like they might be like legitimately the next tier 0, because this Numeron Eldorado deck looks incredibly strong. It looks like it's good against combo or control. The fact that they're main decking 3 copies of just one Forbidden Droplets is crazy. It looks like you know, if you try to add 0 of them, they do actually have a way out. I do think it will be interesting to see if something like Forbidden Chalice does ultimately catch on, because I talked about it in another video. I said that that was my, you know, that was the first card that popped into my mind was, you know, Impermanence and Forbidden Chalice, but looks like the OCG had some different ideas. Anyways, what do you guys think of this? What do you think of these Numeron cards? For anybody who said I was overhyping them, that they weren't that good, is this something that is going to start selling you on that? And of course, when we get some more results, because, you know, again, small sample size, I will update you guys. I want to see what happens when they have the first couple of weeks, like the first huge tournaments in the OCG. I'm willing to bet that like half of the meta is going to be running these cards because they're just too damn strong. Anyways, whatever you guys think, you leave that in the comment section below. If you guys are interested in some of the deck lists, they will also be in the description below. Thank you guys for watching. As always, subscribe if you have not already, and turn on that notification bell for daily videos.